So what I do like about AI, is that it's going to help us have more time to be who we are. What I don't like about it is what everybody else thinks. It could destroy humanity. If it gets into the wrong hands, it could. So it's going to be interesting how things play out. But as humanity, we've always had to deal with both sides. There's always been an opportunity to use technology in the right way or live your life in the right way, or there's been this threat. For a long time, it was nuclear weapons, right? There's always been this existential threat to humanity, and there always will be. There always will be. So if we give in to that existential threat, it will cause us not to have any motivation to do anything in life.
So this is what I got. I got a Sefer Lexicon, Names and Places, 2nd edition. And this is called the Sefer. Oh, how dare you!
Belief is the enemy of knowing.
All right, man. Welcome to Crow 777 Radio. This is episode 250. Jason Lindgren is with me, and Mark Passio is with me. I just wanted to make a note as we jump in. I did get my Sefer Bible, finally. Ironically, one of Owen's crew was doing the shipping, recognized my name, and hooked me up, so thank you for that. I hear a lot of people going both ways on this, and I'll ask a simple question. If you're going to bag on it or make comments for it, have you read it? I'm just going to ask because I got it. I read a lot. You're not burning through that in a week or a month. There's a lot there to go through. From my point of view, there's a lot of extra material. I got the lexicon with it. The beauty of the lexicon is it's another opportunity to get someone's take on what a name means or other words. So in my view, more information is good. Anyhow, welcome, Jason.
Good morning.
And look at that. Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate the books.
All right. Welcome to the Healing Law Podcast. Today we have Dr. Stephen Paul Edwards, author of the Venus Flytrap, with us today. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Douglas. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And today we're going to be talking about how self-accountability fuels personal growth. So what inspired you to write the Venus Flytrap?
Great question. So what inspired me to write it was the fact that I went through so much in this. And this is an intense story, right? This is an incredible story. It's hard to believe it's really true. In fact, I say at the beginning of the book, you're going to say these three things sooner rather than later. You're going to say, there's no way that happened. That can't be true. And nobody could be that crazy. But it did. It is. And we were, right? So that's one of the things that makes it worthwhile writing, because it draws you in, right? So it draws you in to a story that has profound opportunities to have learning in it. And when people read it, they tell me, oh my God, I saw me in that situation. That profoundly hit me, or whatever it is, right? To get people to look at themselves without anybody, there's nothing in the book that says you need to do this, or you shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have done whatever. It's a story, and people learn from stories more powerfully than people tell them what to do, right? Mm-hmm. So but it's a lot of things. It's entertaining, it's exciting, it's adventurous, it's tragic, all those things that people love in a story, right? But exaggerated like 10 times, right? What happened for us. So the reason I wrote it was I had a profound experience going through it. Not saying that I enjoyed it all, right? I'm not saying I would do it again, but having gone through it was the most profound teaching of my life. So I've worked with Tony Robbins. I've worked with Wayne Dyer. I've worked with Deepak Chopra. I've worked with all these luminaries, and I learned so much from them, but nothing taught me as much as this experience that I went through. It was incredibly profound. So I didn't write the book because I had it all figured out. I wrote it because I lived it, and now I can help people recognize the same patterns so that it doesn't cost them years of their life. And what I realized is people don't have relationship problems, Douglas. They have pattern problems, and they bring those patterns to the relationship. They think it's the other person, but that other person is just mirroring back to them the parts of themselves they've given away during their life because either they were too afraid to actually live them themselves, or they put them to one side to survive. When we're children, we don't have choices that we do when we're adults, but we bring those patterns with us. So it's, what I liken it to, and some of your listeners might relate to this, it's called the dark night of the soul. When you go through the most profound experiences and to get to the other side to experience who you really are. Not an easy experience, right? Not easy to do. And most people don't take those steps because of their fears, right? So it's, the book is there to help people realize there's nothing wrong with that stuff. Whatever trauma you went through as a child, whatever humiliation, whatever guilt you have, whatever shame you have, it's not real. And when you bring it out and you speak it into the world, as I did in this book, right? I mean, I share everything. I bare my soul in this book. But once you've done that, it has no power over you anymore. And until you face those things, you're in a prison because you're always worried, is somebody else going to find that out about you, right? Is your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your family, your friends. There's a part of you that's always worried, what if they found that out? And you push it down, but you can't. It has to come out. It's energy, right, that you're holding inside of you.
Right.
That energy, as you know, has a vibratory field of energy to it. And that's why when people say, I feel like I'm a magnet for these things, you are a magnet. You're drawing it in. Nobody, one of the beliefs that I adopted a long time ago, well, not that long ago, but a while ago, that has changed my life, Douglas, in a profound way, is that nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you. So when you adopt that belief, it sounds easy, right? But it isn't, because when the most difficult, terrible thing happens in your life, you're probably not going to go, oh, well, this is happening for me right now. This is great, right? And to be honest, neither do I. Even now, when I have that belief, when something happens in the moment, I get angry sometimes. I get frustrated. I mean, we're all human, right? And what we want is something that is going to minimize that. So even though you get angry, you get frustrated, what you want is to come back to your center as soon as possible, right? And so by adopting that belief, I still get upset, but then within a pretty short period of time, I'm going to go, okay, I have a bit of an attitude about it, right? Okay, this happened for me, right? I'm going to figure it out, right? But you have to be committed to that. I'll give you a quick example in the book. It was a tumultuous relationship, right? Crazy stuff that goes on that you can't even believe. But at one point, we had this argument, right? And she was living with me at the time. But she'd gone away on a binge, right? And so I had to go away. And so I locked up the house. Well, she comes back and she breaks in, right? Sets off all the alarms. The police are there. I mean, it's insane, right? But anyway, the police let her in the house. And I was talking to the police, do not let her in the house. Do not, right? Because I knew it wasn't going to be a good thing, right? Well, so when I came back, right, I came back from my trip. And of course, she's not there, right? So I go into the kitchen and I think, I make myself a cup of tea, So I put the kettle on. I come back. The kettle's not working, right? I tried it. And then I look behind it and she's cut the cable. She's cut the electric cord. But not just that one, because then your brain's going, oh my God, no. She hasn't cut all the cords, has she? Everything. TVs, everything. Lamps, the whole 9 yards, right? I'm going, oh my God. So then, I come from England and we, as kids, we tend to be very into, fashion, that kind of thing. So I had, at this point, I'm living in a mansion. I'm making millions of dollars a year. I'm driving a Bentley and a Rolls Royce, right? And I'm like, I can live well. So I bought a wardrobe of clothes that people would die for, right? Yeah. And she knew I loved that wardrobe. So guess I go running to the closet, right? I'm thinking, no, please, no, right? So I go in the closet and initially everything is perfect. Everything is in its place. It was, right? So I start pulling the clothes back and look at them. Like she'd cut the lapel on a suit jacket or she'd slash the back. And she'd cut all the corners of my shoe.
It's the little things on everything.
Oh my God, right?
So of course,
so of course I'm furious, right? I'm like, oh, I will kill her if she comes back. You know what I mean? So this sort of went on for 24 hours, and finally I calmed down and I said, okay, let's figure this out. How has this happened for me, right? So I had to think about it, right? Because I still had to, break through the anger and upset. But finally, I said to myself, okay, this has happened for me. How? So I said, well, first of all, it's just clothes, right? It's just clothes, right? Mm-hmm. And then I realized I was attached to those clothes. And her taking them away from me caused me to look at that. right? And so that was a huge lesson. There's one, right? And eventually I let go of everything, Douglas. I let go of the cars, let go of the house. And oh my God, it was so freeing.
Oh,
It was so freeing because a lot of people see people with things like that and they think, oh, you've got such a good life. And I'm not complaining, but I'm saying that it takes a lot of energy to get those things, to keep those things, to maintain those things.
to keep it, it's the hard part. Like the stuff you, what is it? The stuff you own ends up owning you, right?
Yeah, and that's why they call them possessions, right? They possess you,
Right.
right? They literally possess you, right? So once you can let go of that, and that's where I realized what the phrase "less is more" means. The less stuff you have, the more of yourself you have, the more time you have, which is our most valuable resource, right? You're not running around stressed out, thinking, I got a $40,000 nut to meet every month, right? And what I've got to do that, and how you have to compromise things to do that. So, I'm very grateful for this to have happened. Like I said, I wouldn't want it to happen again, but I saw my flaws, Doug, so clearly that I was a people pleaser, right? And by being a people pleaser, I would give up my identity, who I really am, to the other person, right? They became number one in my life when you need to be number one in your life, right? Because if you're not, you're giving yourself away, and then you can't be who you really are. It's like, the analogy of the, you in the airplane and the oxygen goes out and the mask comes down. Whose mask do you put on? Hopefully your own, right? Because if you try putting everybody else's on, you're not going to be able to help anybody, right? So I was not doing that. And I was giving myself away. I was losing my identity. And she got me to do things. I ended up doing things out of choice that she was doing to be with her, right? Things that I'd maybe done in the past, but had let go of a long time ago. Drinking alcohol. I hadn't drunk alcohol for 20 years. She's an alcoholic. So, and I tried a lot of things to try and get her out of that, put her into rehab. Not interested, right? Not going to happen. So I had to make a choice. I'm either going to enter her world, because she ain't going to enter mine, or I'm going to let her go. And what I would come up against is, and this is why I help people with trauma and toxic relationships, because you justify in your mind. And I would say things like, well, listen, man, your life is pretty fun, right? I mean, it's a crazy adventure. Yes, there are downfalls. It doesn't get crazy, and that can be stressful. But look, at the end of the day, if you break up with her, what are you going to be left with? A boring life? Or do you want to stay with her, put up with the tumultuousness, the madness, and enjoy her, right? So those are the things. That's a justification in your head. It's not reality. But have you ever been in a situation where you've known somebody and you can see they're in a toxic relationship, right? And you tell them, you do everything you can to convince them, and they won't listen. Because they're not supposed to. They're going through their biggest learning experience and opportunity. Now, not everybody figures it out. Some people at the end of a relationship, they go, it was all him or it was all her. So I'm just going to take a break, and then I'm going to get back in a relationship down the road. And they get back in another relationship and they meet the same person in a different body.
Yeah.
Because it was never the person, it was their patterns that they keep repeating. And you got to learn how to break those patterns. So I had to learn how to rebuild my own self-esteem. I had to once again learn how to get back to the things that made me who I am and stop giving them away. As I give those things away, I'm giving a piece of myself. So in the end, my therapist, because you got to have a therapist whether you're a therapist or not, right? Because if you don't, there's no one to look in your life, I was on a podcast just recently, and it was a therapist who's got this podcast, and she's called it The Secret Lives of Therapists, right? Because, we're all going out there trying to save the world and not doing any work on ourselves sometimes, you know what I mean? But that also taught me that, right? So then I started to go to therapy, and I tried to get her to go with me, not interested. We were both committed to insane asylums when we were kids, right? Both at 16. Oh, wow. So we were mirrors of each other in so many ways. But she would never do any therapy because she had a serious disease that she knew. And she was terrified that the therapist would put her back in the asylum again. So she would never go to therapy in a million years, right? So I went, and my therapist in the end said to me, Stephen, look, you got to make a choice here. You can stay in this relationship, but let me tell you something. You're losing yourself. You're actually losing your sanity. You're becoming insane. because the things that you're saying are someone would say that's insane. And you're losing everything. You're losing your business. You're losing, the things that you're passionate about. And so she said, look, you got to realize something. She's not prepared to do the work. And she can't get out of this without doing the work, intense work. And then it could be livable. But even then, it's going to be tremendously unstable and very difficult to be. But if you don't let her go, if you don't let her go, she's going to destroy you, completely. And then she'll leave you, right? Because once she's got that, then she won't be interested in you anymore.
Right.
And I said, you know what I mean? That's how it works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to make a decision. But even then, Douglas, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't an easy decision. But I had to let her go.
Yeah.
And so sometimes these relationships come into our lives that are absolutely impossible. It could never, ever have worked. And it was never meant to. So she's a master teacher, whether she realizes it consciously or not.
Well, as long as you're willing to learn the lesson.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, it wasn't easy to learn the lesson because people say, well, how'd you get it? Well, it wasn't an overnight thing, right? I didn't break up with her and go, now that's over. I'm now cured.
Right.
No. The first thing I had to do was start rebuilding my life, right? Doing the things that made me who I am. So, like I'm very into health and nutrition. So I would get back into doing my juicing every day, doing my meditation every day, doing the supplements, just doing the things that made me who I am, a more balanced person, which is what attracted her to me because she wanted what I had, right? And I wanted some of the qualities that she was displaying in her life. So that was the first thing. You got to rebuild your life. And then you can really start looking at it. And I've spent years looking at this because it just intrigued me. Here I am. I'm a spiritual counselor, PhD in spiritual counseling. I've worked with the most amazing personal development gurus on the planet. And it happened to me.
Yeah.
No, it happened for me, right? So, but I was saying initially it happened to me. Wait a minute, it happened for me, right? So,
like Jack Talcott.
then I really,
you heard that interview. He taught me I have to go do this. He'd be like, no, you get to. That's
right. Yeah, he talks about that at his events sometimes. He was going, I got another UPW to do, and then he said no. He caught himself and he goes, no, I get to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Have that gift.
Positive attitude.
Yeah. So, these are some of the things. And look, most people wait until things fall apart before they look at this, me included, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the people who come to me earlier, they don't just save their relationship. They save themselves from years of confusion. And I was confused for years, right? But I was prepared to look into it really deeply to learn that was an incredible learning experience for me. I just got to make sure I look into all those things, right? And I studied Carl Jung, who talks about this, right? That this relationship is going to come into your life. And I'm reading it and going, that's me, right? That's totally me. It's what happened, right?
Right.
And he talks about the relationship that comes into your life being untenable, it being impossible. And between every line, when you talk about it, you realize it's just not possible. So my goal is, first of all, to put that out there as a book, as a story, but also to help people not to have to go through those years of confusion and be able to heal those patterns and recognize it's not about the other person. It's about you. And it's about your patterns that you're probably not even conscious of. You could have had these things for 10, 20, 30 years or your whole life. But some people never fix them, never get out of it, right? So having someone help you do it not only saves you time, your health, but it saves years of your life.
I heard you say something I forget if it was a interview or one of your older videos. It was about technology. So like the technology in our hand is like the black mirror, right? It's like a dark reflection of ourselves, but nobody looks at it like that, but they make it all about themselves. You take selfies with it. Was like the first big thing is taking selfies, and it's all about you. But the communication that it's all a reflection of the things that are like already inherent in nature itself, but in like this physical form, we need it to see like the communication. It's like a physical reflection of what nature already had.
That's such a good, glad you caught that. So everything outside of us is a reflection of an inner potential. When you say that to people, people say, hold on a second, I'm not a toaster, right? I'm not a kettle, right? No, but you have that electrical potential in you, right? So every cell of our body carries with it an electrical potential. It's like 1.15 volts, right? Now, how many cells do we have? trillions. So if you multiply the trillions of cells by 1.15 volts, you could literally light up the world, right? You can light up a city. So why can't we? Well, because the challenge is that there are obstacles, which is the chemistry that we create from fear, right? From not feeling we're good enough. And so there are built-in safety valves that nature puts in there to say, we're not going to let you get to that potential until you are ready as individuals and as a consciousness. What does that mean? So we can't connect that electrical potential until we can hold the vibration that will give us access to that. Everything is vibration, right? We have come to this physical experience as a vibratory soul, a spirit, but we slowed that vibration down so we can have a physical experience. So one of the goals of humanity, of consciousness, is to be able to raise our vibration to where it would be normally as a spirit in the physical body, to experience the rapture of being alive by being fully activated. So we will be able to tap into that energy when we are ready, when we can hold that vibration in our body. If you take a droplet of water and you put it on something that's vibratory, you can put it on a speaker and you can play music. And what happens to that droplet of water, it starts to create within itself sacred geometric patterns. And those geometric patterns are held in place by the tension created by the vibration. They're actually called initially the platonic solids, which become the circle of life, the flower of life, the egg of life, and all these different sacred geometric patterns that lead to creation. And they unfold into this flower of life, the circle of life, then it becomes the flower of life. And the circle of life is 7 circles. But to get to those 7 circles, it only moves 6 times. 6 days of creation, and on the 7th day he rested. So all of these things that are written in textbooks are actually metaphors for how the universe really works.
Well, that's why they actually play out in real time over and over again, like these stories.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And they put them out from different ways. So, and that's one of the things I say to people. Listen, everything you need is within you. And if you think about it, if you believe in an omnipotent, I didn't know we were going to get off on this tangent, but anyway, it's a good one. So if you believe in an omnipotent, all-loving God, right, omnipresent, then don't you think that God would send us down here going, well, listen, I hope you find this. Good luck, right? Or do you think that creative force would make sure everything you need, you're already packing it?
Yeah.
You already, and so when we see someone, being courageous, we see someone being dynamic or very confident, and we say, oh God, I wish I had that. I wish, give me that. And all the creative force can do is give you circumstances where you're going to have to display, right? So people say, why do they keep getting worse?
Yeah.
I asked to get it for them to go better, and all the creative energy can do is, I got to make it worse so you realize yourself you already have that. So they say, you're going to be careful what you ask for, right? Because you're going to get it. But you see, the universe cannot register a negative. So if I said to you right now, don't think of a blue door. Whatever you do not think of a blue door.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about?
Yeah. Obviously, the first thing to come to mind. Yeah.
You can't help it, right?
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I don't want this, ask for what you do want. And then the next step, obviously, is to have the belief, the faith, right? So belief is one layer, then you've got conviction, and then you've got faith. And the stronger those are, the sooner that's going to appear in your life. And the less attached you are. What a lot of people don't realize is, well, I've told everybody that I'm envisioning this, this, and this, but they're going to put their negative energy on it. Oh, they're not going to do that, right? Or they don't want you to do that. Right. So you got to be careful who you tell, and then you got to make sure that you are constantly reinforcing it. You've heard about a vision board and, meditate on it, really see it. It's not just ask for it and then forget about it. It's ask for it on a continual basis. The more energy you put on it without attachment, because if you're attached to it, it means you're scared that I might not get it. Right.
Right. That's why you're telling everybody and doing this, because you really want to make it work, because you don't think that it will on its own.
That's right. Yeah, there you go.
So I do this every episode. We have a sponsor, American Grit Fulvic Acid. Have you ever heard of fulvic acid?
Folic acid, yeah.
Fulvic, Fulvic. It's like a.
Okay.
Do you know
Full-
Shilajit?
okay.
Himalayan Shilajit, maybe you've heard of? Shilajit.
No.
No. Okay. So it's like an ancient substance that, like the plants, when they decompose over time, they become like compost. The nutrients in there, the polyphenols break down into smaller and smaller and smaller things. And over thousands of years, it's deposited into certain spots. And under the right conditions, for certain, whatever you consider the right conditions, it would become like oil, coal, or tar. But that's when it loses an oxygen molecule, like the spirit leaves the polyphenols, and then it's hydrocarbons instead of what fulvic acid is a bioactive. It's ancient plant compounds. They're so small, like it's all the essential things. It's ridiculous what's in there, and it's really cool. So that's a complicated way to say what it is, but it carries like this charge, like it's insane because all the energy that we get to make this technology comes from oil, coal, and tar, like the plastics and all this stuff, and the energy to produce the cars and stuff. It all comes from this. But this is a different form of that. And like when they put it into they put it in the rivers, and it bind, like if there's PFOAs or whatever, forever chemicals in the rivers, like it'll bind to them and pull them out of the water chain. Like it just like does this a lot of amazing things. But it's just ancient plant material. It's like the oldest thing. And you can find that at OperationAmericanGrit.com, anybody who wants it, of course.
Is that your website? Is
Yeah.
that your website?
My brand, yeah.
I'll definitely check into that because it sounds very interesting.
I can send
Very
you a bottle too if you're interested. More information.
That'd be fantastic. I would love it. Yeah, it sounds very interesting. And anything to do with health, that I had no idea about that stuff. So I would. What do you think the biggest payoffs are from our personal health?
Energy and mental clarity, focus, and it hydrates on a cellular level. So like it can enter the cells and it can pull and deposit nutrients and minerals, and it can polyphenols by themselves, like certain ones, they chelate metals, so they pull them out. So this is a hyper complex, like a homeopathic medicine made by nature itself. It's pulled out of clay through a water extraction. So it goes throughout the body, and it can detox on a deep level.
Wow.
I think it sharpens the energetic like connections throughout your body. Like it breaks through any like plaque or something, maybe perhaps would be what I
we've been talking, kind of be something like what we've been talking about, really, right? Connecting things so you can experience more of that electromagnetic energy. Well, I'm excited, man. I love that.
Yes, absolutely, exactly. So there's one fun little quote here. So 13 years ago, you said it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. You still stand by that?
Yeah. And that's, I think Malcolm Gladwell writes about that, as well. I think maybe I even got it from there, and I'd said that before, but he was right. To become a master at anything, it usually takes about 10 years or 10,000 hours, I think he says. But you're doing something over and over again, and so you can do it unconsciously. And you see these even actors that suddenly come. Now, obviously, you've got young actors that haven't done that, and they become very famous very quickly. But usually, it's very difficult for them to handle it, right? It's very difficult to handle it. Whereas actors that do it over 10 years, right, they don't go crazy, right? Because they now have had a real life, and they know that the fame is not who they are, and that when people adore them to that degree, it's not real. I've done a lot of events and I speak to thousands of people, and when I come off stage, people come up to me and they say, "Oh man, you're so amazing, you got it all together." And I go, "You don't know me," right? What you know is a persona on that stage, right? That's not me. I'm a human being, and it always kind of confuses me when people say, "Can I get your autograph?" And I go, "Why do you want my autograph? Give me yours." Because I guarantee if you told me about your life, it'd be a hell of a lot more exciting than what I just said, right? We've all got a book in us, right? We all have that. And I think sometimes there's nothing wrong to admire people for some of the things they do, but adulation is a different thing. To put them on a pedestal, to make them seem perfect, because the only way to go from there is down, right? Because you're not. One of the things that I like to do is help people become fully activated. Now, what is that? Or, the best they can be, to realize that what they see in that other person is a potential that's within them, and to help them realize that potential. So yeah, it's funny how human beings are and how we are ourselves. The more mature you are, the easier it is to have that perspective. I see a lot of these young people, sports athletes, that struggle with it so much, and then they go to alcohol and they go to all these different things because what they're trying to do is keep up an image that doesn't exist, and then they feel alone because they think, well, you think that about me, and I'm this famous, and there's all, this money around me that I'm getting because I am that famous, and but they lose sense of self. And you see it happen all the time, that a lot of them end up on drugs or unhappy relationships and things like that. So not saying it's not possible to keep it together, but it's very difficult for younger people to create that kind of fame so early and then keep it together. When we saw the whole thing, Britney Spears, we could go on and on, right?
It seems to be that the internet's kind of broken that dynamic because Hollywood's kind of shattered. Like, they're still actors, but no, they're not like celebrities like they used to be as much. Like, there's no because everyone kind of can just speak online to anyone else. We're all celebrities now, I guess, whatever. But yeah, well, it kind of shattered that a lot.
Yeah, it's true. You're right. And eventually there won't be any, because everyone, you can make your own movie and star in it, and an AI will create superstars, right? That seem real, but they're a persona that's not, right? They're artificial intelligence. So everything is changing, right? Everything is changing. Used to be as a music artist, you could make an album and you could make money doing that. You can't do that anymore. You got to have other things that you generate income from, right? So it's all changing. Is it changing for the greater good? Depends how you look at it, right? Depends how you look at it. So all this technology, right? And it's going to be a reflection of your life again, right? So if you see it as a potential to use it in a good way, in a helpful way that helps humanity, it's a good thing. If you see it, if you're coming from a place of you hate the world, you feel like the world hates you, you're going to do destructive things with it, right? Yeah, it's just the way it's going to be. Yep. So what I do like about AI, is that it's going to help us have more time to be who we are. What I don't like about it is what everybody else thinks. It could destroy humanity. If it gets into the wrong hands, it could. So it's going to be interesting how things play out. But as humanity, we've always had to deal with both sides. There's always been an opportunity to use technology in the right way or live your life in the right way, or there's been this threat. For a long time, it was nuclear weapons, right? There's always been this existential threat to humanity, and there always will be. There always will be. So if we give in to that existential threat, it will cause us not to have any motivation to do anything in life.
Right. Then what's the point? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I spent so much time when I woke up to the truth of things and how whatever, this and that, being angry, they're doing this and they're doing that. And eventually, for years, I was so mad. And then I was like, what am I doing though? How am I I just got to focus on being better myself rather than whatever they're doing. Forget their thing. It's a distraction.
Yeah. So my belief is that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, so what's going on with the social media then? Why is it being this way? What about the media? And we're at a point where everyone is asking, who do you believe? Everyone's got a different spin on the story. And the answer is you don't trust anything outside of yourself. You've got a mechanism within yourself that you can determine whether something is true or not.
The Holy Spirit.
So what we're being guided towards is to go in yourself, because you can't make any sense of this out here anymore. You can't trust in this anymore. You gotta go. So we're being pushed within, right? To where we have to be with ourselves, because that way you're connecting with the creative force that is everything. Everything is the creative force, right? And that will never tell you anything that's based in fear. It will always be something based in love. And so there you go.
Absolutely, man.
And it won't tell you exactly what to do. It won't say, go to the end of the street, turn right. It won't tell you, you should do this, that, and the other, but it will guide you to asking the right questions. So you can still make your own choices and you still have free will. And those choices and decisions will be made based on your internal belief system, whether the world is against you, whether the world is for you.
Awesome, man. No, great discussion. So for people who want to find you, it's your website, and it's all VFT23 is like you're at everywhere, right?
What I did, Douglas, as you know, I think, we sent you a couple of links for your audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Special gifts, right? So what I would suggest is, if this intrigued you in any way, there's a link to get the first 3 chapters of the book for free. So you can read the first 3 chapters and see if it resonates with you. And if you want to, go more seriously into the patterns that you want to go deep into, then I sent you a link to get a free 30-minute consultation so we can meet each other and get to know each other a little bit and see if there's resonance there and go forward. And then the other thing is, as you said, there is the website that you can go to as well and look around. We do a lot of things, so I'd love to hear from you. And what we want to do is we want to create a community where people can safely face their fears, face their patterns, face their shame, whatever it might be, in a community that is ready to do the same. So you don't feel alone, because very often when you're experiencing those things, you can feel very alone. And what causes you to feel alone is because you're not telling anybody else about it. Because once you start telling everybody about it, they go, it's not a big deal, right? You're in a mental asylum when you were 16. Who cares, right? Mm-hmm. You did this, you did that, you did the other. It's you believing it means so much. It's you believing that everybody else will judge you. Now, some people will, but then you want to surround yourself in a community that won't. And that's what we're about creating.
I'll drop those links that you shared with me. I'll get them in the descriptions of the podcast and YouTube video, wherever this is at. So definitely check out the description box if that's what you're interested in. And yeah, amazing. I definitely look forward to talking to you down the road or whatever. And I'll send you that fulvic acid.
Please do. Point. Yeah. I want to read about that for sure.
I'm so bad at wrapping these things up, but this has been the Healing Law Podcast. Everybody, you take care now. Thanks for joining.